by the way, I'll introduce you to everybody.
Yeah.
This is Clark.
Clark.
Clark is going to help us sound really good today.
Awesome.
Which is great. Melvin, one of our fantastic videographers.
Right on.
This is Gordy.
Gordy.
Researcher, behind-the-scenes photo taker. So I'll shoot you some of those later today. This is Alex. We know him as Sonic.
Nice. Sonic.
He's our director, so he's punching between all the cameras as we talk. Ryan, back over there, floor director / co-owner of HearRVA. Very cool person.
All right.
I married her. She's that cool.
Oh, wow. Hey.
And then you met Max downstairs, who is our
yeah.
guest liaison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Nice to meet everybody. Holy moly.
We are so happy that you're here.
I'm on the, what's it called? I'm on like the, I'm coming out of, I've been drinking a lot, is what I'm saying.
Oh, right.
I've had a lot of shows. It's been a lot of shows lately.
Yeah, because you've been touring a bunch.
Dude, well, yeah, sort of, but like, I just finished doing like 3 gigs in a row, and there were 3 totally different sets from three different bands.
Oh, wow.
And they all were 2.5 hours long each. And so last night I finished the Broadberry, and my voice is like, it's gone. Like, I don't have a voice anymore, you know? And my hand, my hand is just like, oh, like, why are you doing this to me? Yeah, so.
I mean, because you said the set was 2.5 hours?
So on Thursday I did an all 90s set at the Get Tight Lounge.
Oh, right.
And then Friday I did which was a 2.5 hour set there. Then the Prabir Trio did 2.5 hours at Dirty Nelly's in Charlottesville on Friday.
Right.
And then Full Moon Fever did the 2.5 hour show at Broadberry last night. So I've just had 3 shows in a row where I've had like I've literally used every part of my hand and brain.
You're living like the rock dream.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. Oh, you gotta be careful there.
Clark will yell at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what's? I've seen the name, and we went over there for the outdoor Peanuts Symphony kind of thing. But the Get Tight Lounge, that's like a new spot.
Yeah.
Okay, because I hadn't like heard of it until recently, and now everybody's playing there.
Yeah. Prabir Trio has a 420 show there, which will be great.
Sick. That's a good segue, speaking of 420. Like, I think the first time that I came across you was your song Light Up in the Name of Love.
Yeah, sure.
And that was really dope. Can you tell me a little bit about that song, how it came about?
Yeah, totally. So there's this thing in India called bong. And
Not like a bong.
Not like a bong, but close. All right. The reason I say close is because it's B-H-A-N-G. Is the spelling. And bong is this yogurt thing. It's like a yogurty dairy drink, but it's made with cannabis.
Oh.
And it was one of the trips, I can't remember which one it was, but I went to India, and I was in Rishikesh, which is northern India. And I was just, you know, I was by myself, so I guess it was 2018. And I just remember like exploring the city like by myself, not having an agenda, you know.
How old were you at this time?
How old was I? I was probably like 38 or something like that. I was in my late 30s, or mid 30s or something. I can't remember exactly.
It's all the same.
Somewhere in that ballpark. But yeah, but it was nice to just be able to explore agenda-free. No obligations, no anyone, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do all the things. Like if something comes my way, I'm gonna let it come my way.
Right.
You know, which sometimes can be difficult in places like India. India's not an easy place to travel because I mean, it's a beautiful place to travel. I would suggest everybody travel there, as much as possible. But, there's definitely going to be some dietary issues because, you can't like consume water there, for example. So you have to be careful about what you eat. So you can't eat too many fresh foods. There's a lot of stuff. There's also going to be language barriers because you can speak Hindi or Gujarati, and then you could go to a part of India that really people don't really speak that. Maybe they speak only Punjabi or something else. So like there will be some language issues here and there. There's just like you would encounter in any kind of travel situation. But on that one trip, I was like, whatever comes my way, I will let it, and it's going to be the world is like coming to me, and I'm going to just be here and receive it, And so I spent this evening where I was walking around, and I found this little shop. It's like this little, like a little pop-up thing, and it's just this, it says, bong sales, and I was just like, what's that? And he's like, you should, this was in Hindi, he was saying you should try it, and I was like, okay, and gave him some money, and as soon as I had a sip of it, I was like, I know what this is. Like that first taste, I was like, that first taste is so sweet. I was like, there it is, and then yeah, you feel the effects very quickly. Like it was like 20 minutes in, and I was like, I'm in Rishikesh, and I was walking across there's this bridge called the Ramprashad Bridge, which is a suspension bridge over the Ganges River. And you look down and, there's rocks and water flowing and it's beautiful, and you look around and you're like, where am I? What is going on, So it's this like experience of just kind of like being really lit, basically, and just in love with the idea of like, this is all here. Yeah. This is all here. And
just being very present.
Just being there, yeah. And so I was just like, hey man, if you're gonna do it for like a good reason.
Right.
In the name of love, So like everything was done in the name of love when bong gets involved, So yeah, that's kind of how that song was written. And then I took it, back to the States, or I brought it back to the States rather, and threw it at the band, and of course, like always, they made it 6,000 times better than what it was before, and love playing it. It's just a lot of guitar in that song.
Yeah,
and
there's like whole like different sections and movements to that song too.
Yeah, it's like 6.5 minutes long, and it has only one verse.
That's why your hand hurts.
Yeah.
But it's a great song, and it was a good like opening. For me, somebody just like that to be the first impression that I had of you. I was like, oh, I'm gonna check you out because I also enjoy the smoking.
Yeah, hey man, eating it, smoking, whatever, however you get it.
That's right.
But let it come to you.
Let it come to you.
Let it come to you.
That's right. Don't ever pay for it. But that song, that was on the album Hanji, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Can you kind of tell me about like recording, kind of writing those songs?
Yeah. So Hanji, most of those songs were written with Kelly and Russell, Kelly
nice.
Strawbridge and Russell Lacey, and we worked quite a while on that album. Actually, we recorded it at Russell's studio, the Virginia Moonwalker, which is awesome.
Where's that at?
It's in Mechanicsville.
Tight.
But he's recorded a ton of other stuff. I mean, like Piranharama recorded out there. I know that Handsome Creature recorded out there. There's so many bands over the years have recorded out there. He's prolific, at that. But yeah, Russell and Kelly and I were working on songs for a while, and I had a few songs that I'd written kind of for this immigrant context to life. Like I was like, I'm gonna do this immigrant album is kind of where I was. And then Kelly was very supportive of that idea, very encouraging of it. There's this song called Slowly that's on there. I wrote that with my grandmother before she passed away years ago. And it never really had a home, and I was like, it'll end up on this album, and Kelly and Russell really did a beautiful job with it. Kanika's voice really like took it to the next level, So the whole album is like this collection of these thoughts of like, past Indian life, current U.S. life, the adjustment as an immigrant to adjust to learning about the history of the nation.
Yeah, I was going to mention your song, America.
Yeah, like on your own, how you piece together like what really happened or what you were told, were not told. There's a song about like watching my parents like work their asses off because, you got to take care of 2 kids and you've left your home behind and you're in a new place now and, the U.S. in the late 80s and early 90s wasn't as easy as it is now for a lot of things. And it was a difficult, first decade living in the U.S. And watching my parents struggle. And so I wrote a song for them about that. Kind of like tracing back experiences of growing up in the suburbs, listening to rock and roll with my friends and being like, this is the new me. Like, the Indian immigrant Prabir is gone because now I've heard Silverchair. Chair. So like, it was just this kind of like this story of like this like abstract story of like my immigrant experience, set to music basically.
How did it feel when that was done and put out there, and then it was received well? I mean, because you were on the short list for the Newland Prize last year, and I mean,
total honor.
Right.
Totally.
But I mean, how did that feel? Kind of, not that your work is validated or anything, but it's like just people enjoy that story you had to tell.
I think the thing that I really like was blown away by was that our first pressing of 100 records like sold that weekend, the weekend we released it. And I remember being like, oh, we're going to have to order more records and it's going to take forever, which it did. It took forever to get the second pressing, but it was all worth it. It was great. I mean, it was very nice to see folks wanting to hear that, because I've played in a bunch of bands over the years, and the theme has never been to talk about that Indian story. Or that aspect of my life,
Right.
With Gold Rush, I got to explore a lot of like songs about politics and, esoteric theological debates that can be like set to orchestral musicians ripping it up, And then Prabir and the Substitutes was this very like, this is a rock and roll band and we do love songs and we do songs about sex, drugs, and rock and roll,
The classics.
It's the classics, and I've loved all of it. It's all been great, but it was really wonderful to get Kelly and Russell really, really pushing it and being like, let's do this, like do this thing, and Russell played with us for a long time, and then he stepped away from the band in I think 2021 or 2, something like that, and then our buddy Jeremy Flax has since then been playing with us, and so Kelly, Jeremy, Kanika, and I have been writing all the new tunes that we are now working on for album number 2. We just cut all the demos for that, and that's going to be 12 songs. And those songs are more this new thing that we're working on now. I'm calling it Long After the Empire.
Okay.
And it's about India today. Like it's about like modern India. It's about like the experiences that you can now have in India, long after the British Empire has left. Like what's so the songs are literally about places that I go and visit and have friends and family and stuff. So there's a song about how you can't drink in Ahmedabad, which is the town I was born in. Ahmedabad, Gujarat. You can't drink alcohol. Currently practicing prohibition, but every person in Ahmedabad has at least 2 handles of whiskey and gin, but legally you can't drink,
Sure.
So there's
and
some.
you just knocked them all out.
Yeah, man. Hey, look.
We're big over in India.
Yeah. If you're watching this in India,
sorry, there's no subtitles.
Yeah, put the daru niche muko. Yeah. So okay. We don't need subtitles. I'll speak to them in their language.
Cool. Just overdub.
Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear your version of my voice.
Yeah. But yeah, so like the songs are about that. It's about like the experience I have when I go to India now, and like catching up in Rishikesh and HearRVA and Goa and Mumbai and Delhi and Ahmedabad and Viramgam. It's like all about these cities and places and experiences. So I'm stoked. I'm like, Hanji was just like the door opening,
Wow.
And now it's like getting deeper into it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear that.
I'm super pumped about it. We did an Hourglass Session EP.
Yeah.
Where we released one of the songs, and that song is called Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It's about the Holy Trinity, and I'm explaining the roles that they play via context to party, because we can all relate to everybody knows.
Most of people been here have been to one party.
Yeah. You may not be religious, you may be religious, but everyone's been to a party, right? So I'm not a very religious person myself, so I like having fun with the topic of the Holy Trinity.
Right,
you know?
right.
But yeah, so Brahma is needed to start the party, you know, and then you need Vishnu to keep the party moving, and then you need Shiva to end the party. Somebody's got to end the party, you know. So this song's about that. That's on the Hourglass Session EP that we did,
Nice.
which was a lot of fun.
Yo, those Hourglass Session guys are great. We
So
love them.
great.
Shout outs to both of them.
I'm Alexander and this is Garrett.
I'm Garrett.
We're honestly smoked.
We found out we lived across the street from each other in college, and we were always cooking stuff in the backyard. When jerky came into play, and I had a recipe that I had messed around with. We went in, you know, that top spice, you can see it is bold. There's a lot of minced garlic, there's black pepper, there's smoked paprika, there's cayenne, there's garlic. There's all these great, great things in there that you just won't know. It's so textural and so vibrant, and then you bite into it, and it's like boom, and it just lights you up.
And not to be cliche, but we made our product with love. We started this because we both ate a lot of beef jerky. We'd go to the grocery store.
And we still do.
And of course we still do.
Shout out Three Notch Brewing.
We're not brewing.
Collab House in Scott's Edition, our Who Smoked All the Porter recipe that was a companion beer to the Mild Child Jerky. And we were gonna try to take that and rummage that into an awesome little holiday flavor for y'all.
If you type in HearRVA, we haven't made this promo code yet, but it will be live by the time this is.
Yeah, you are in the future, and this promo code is now live.
Exactly.
So if you use promo code
HearRVA, you will get 25% off your entire order.
You moved here when you were 8.
Yeah.
You came to the United States when you were 8.
Yeah.
That's like a super impressionable age.
Yeah.
What was like the first thing that you latched onto? Was it music?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like as a joke, I'm gonna say pizza was the
probably not a
first
joke.
thing. Like, I remember, man. I remember the most. Okay, this is like, please again, if you're watching in India, don't hate me for saying this, but I remember like being so bummed about leaving India because that's where all my friends were.
Sure.
You know.
It's what you knew.
Yeah, it's what I knew, and that's where like I knew where the ice cream store was. It was like a block this way and a block this way from our flat, you know, and I was just like, we're leaving friends and ice cream. Are you sure this is a good move? You know, like, are you sure this is the right thing to be doing? So I remember being really bummed about it, and then I remember landing here at JFK, and I remember my uncle was there to pick us up in his Honda Odyssey minivan. This is a while back, and we got in the van and we like drove. We stayed with some friends in New Jersey, and when I don't know if y'all know this or not, but when Indian people stay with Indian people, like parents, not like people my age, but like previous generation, when they go visit places, they go to other friends' houses and they stay at that house and they eat Indian food. So I went to one of my uncle's houses in New Jersey, and we ate Indian food. And so I was kind of like, this is weird because everybody looks different in the United States.
Sure.
AKA not everyone's Indian, you know, like that's like, so I was like, everyone looks different, number one. You know, there's a different smell in any country you go to. When you land, it's like, I was like, this doesn't smell like home.
Yeah.
And we were just in like airports, car, friend's house. So I didn't really experience anything in the US. And I remember the next day we woke up in New Jersey and my uncle was like, all right, we're driving to Richmond and on the way we'll stop and get food somewhere. No big deal. You know, and I was like, I miss India, I miss India, I miss India. India, India, India. And then we got pizza.
On the way down?
On the way down. And I was like, fuck India. You know, I was like, India doesn't have this. This has cheese and bread and sauce.
And a myriad of toppings.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, you can do whatever you want here. Yeah, and I was like, this must be the land of opportunity, you know. But no, pizza was the first thing I latched onto. But the music really was like, you know, that's how I learned, because, you know, we all like knew a little bit of English, but we had to learn how to speak fluently. And music is a good way to learn like phrases, you know, that you hear contextually, like on the radio or whatever.
Right.
And you'll figure out what that means, and then you'll be able to apply it to life, and then you'll be able to dissect that phrase and be like, these two words must be that, and this, you know. So music was good for that. You know, we have a musical family. My mom is a singer, you know. My uncle in India is a phenomenal tabla player. My cousins are great musicians. So we have a lot of music in the family, so it made sense listening to music and being, like, I could at least tell what was going on because, you know, you can emulate, like, a singer or whatever, you know. Like, my thing was Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
I mean,
you went for it.
if you grow up, like, listening to classical Indian music and Bollywood,
Yeah.
and then you land here and you hear Welcome to the Jungle, yeah, you're fucked. Like, you are fucked.
You're
dude.
either terrified or
It's
hooked.
no, it's done. You're
Yeah,
done.
you're
There's
in.
nothing after that. There's nothing after that. You know, I was just like,
Damn.
yeah, I know where I am. I'm in the jungle. Like, it's gonna bring me down. Yeah. So music was definitely a big one. My cousins, who we were staying with when we moved here, and still are very close with here. One of my cousins got me into more of like the classic rock stuff. He's the older cousin.
Okay.
So he was like, you need to know Led Zeppelin, you need to know Muddy Waters,
Yeah.
you need to know Kiss, you know. And then my other cousin, who's younger, was like, no, you need to know Aerosmith and Paul Abdul
Pearl
and
Jam.
Guns N' Roses. And I was like, So I was getting, and they both were born here, you know. So
Sure.
that was like a nice bridge into, you know, music and exploring all that. And then soon after, we started making Tupperware drum sets at the house and cardboard guitars with rubber band, you know, like.
Wow, y'all were DIY for real.
Dude, yeah, that's the only way to do it, you know. Then, and then my family got me a guitar as a Christmas. No, I got a ukulele as a Christmas present when I was like 13 or something. And then yeah, and then I'm here, and then here I am today, everybody.
No
It's been
practice in between.
It's a straight shot from that to yeah. Yeah.
Well, how old were you when you like put together your first band, or like was like, you know what, I'm gonna go perform for people?
Yeah, my first show I ever played, like out in the world, like in a real place. I mean, you know, we played friends' house parties and that kind of stuff with some bands, but I was in this band in high school called Murfreesboro, and it's named after a small city outside of Nashville. But I don't know really why that was the name. I just went with it. You know,
It's like Murfreesboro is like, is it? I thought there's one in Carolina too.
there's one. Yeah, there's. A
Oh, there's
few
both?
Yeah. There's
Hell
one in
yeah,
Carolina.
geography.
Yeah. You got it. You got it.
Nailed
yeah.
it.
So that was, but we played at Alley Cats, which used to be a venue in Shockoe Bottom, and yeah, I think that was like my first intentional band. Like, we put out an album, like we put out cassettes, you know. We promoted, we had a band photo, you know, we were sending press releases to like magazines and stuff, you know. I think that was like the first attempt at it as a high schooler. And then when I got into VCU, initially for music, but I dropped out of music. I had opted to not want to, I was not enjoying studying it. And I felt that it was going to make me not enjoy it, you know? So I opted to enjoy it instead of study it further.
What did you switch to?
Urban planning.
Nice.
Which, you know, I'm glad I got the degree. I haven't really used it ever, but, you know, it was nice to know how systems work, and it kind of has helped me think through a lot of music stuff as well, you know. But, yeah, in college I started playing around a bit more, and we started touring a bit more with this band called the Rachel Nevadas. And that was kind of my first attempt at getting in a van and going somewhere.
Right.
And having a product and schlepping around merch and doing all that stuff, you know. And then after that, there was a band called Prabir and the Substitutes, which did it at a much more intense capacity. And then there was Gold Rush, which did it again at a different intense capacity. And, you know, the trio kind of formed just a couple of years before the pandemic. And the trio has just been such a therapeutic project to be in with people that I just love, you know. So even though we haven't toured around a lot, we've written what I feel like is some of the most intense music that has come out of any relationship I've had with another person, you know. So like Helly and I have written some, what I feel like is very dynamic music. Like he's taken it to places where I don't think any of the other bands have taken it before, you know. And Kanika and Jeremy are propelling it even further. So it started with Murfreesboro, and they just kept changing and being different, and they've all led to, you know, it's like every day you've lived has led you to today.
100%.
And that's kind of like every note I've played or every note I've heard has led to where I am, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff we make is just the sum of the influences that we've seen kind of spit out through our own filter.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. One of the other reasons, besides, you know, you being a dope musician, that I wanted to bring you on the show is just to talk about like how engaged you are with Richmond itself, like the Richmond music scene. You're involved in a lot of different things, but the thing I probably know you the most from was being tied to Gallery5 and like working with them. Can you talk about you know, what you're doing in Richmond?
Yeah, sure. In 2005, Gallery5 opened via Amanda Robinson, who her father owned the building. And so she was like, we're going to turn it into an art space. And then a lot of folks earlier on, like there's a guy named Parker who helped a ton, who's still around, he still does great work. There's been a bunch of people that have done it. I initially came in to play music there. I was asked to play a Halloween show early on, I think in 2005, might be 2006, I can't remember. But they didn't have a PA system, you know, and so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to make the Gallery5 PA system, and that became like my task, you know. And it takes a while because there was no money, and we were young, and we were just kind of playing around with it. But eventually, we were able to cobble together like a PA system and start having shows. And I remember renting stages and bringing stages in because there wasn't a stage there. And so, you know, we just started treating it more like a thing instead of just like a DIY art space, like more of a business, which needed it to be founded as a business of some kind. So we did it as a 501c3 nonprofit, and I became the founding board chair. And board chair is the position I've had this whole time, basically. I've taken 2 years off in the middle to go tour with Gold Rush, actually, and do Gold Rush things. And then when the building was being sold, the board at the time, which was another collection of wonderful Richmonders, they reached out and said, hey, you know, this is going to be a big change, and we'd love for you to be on the board while that transition is happening. And I said, okay, cool. And so I board chaired myself or whatever. They asked me to do it, you know. And we got through the building sale. The new landlord was great. We worked out a good lease. There was a lot of work that went into keeping it there, you know. Price went up tremendously. We had to figure out how that was going to work. And then the pandemic hit, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to leave now. Like, you know, this isn't the time to vacate. I'll get through the pandemic, and then you know, my second 8 years will come to an end, and the bylaws for that do stay that you're done after that for a while. You know, you can always come back and do it, but so yeah, I put in my formal. I was like, all right, cool. April 2023 is when I'm going to be out. You know, and I'll do everything I can to get it to. Like I will get it to where I feel like it can get us to April 2023, you know, because when the pandemic hit, I was like, we might close Gallery5. You know, there was like a real conversation happening of like, are we going to, you know, what do we do? You know, we can't be open, and we have a huge, we just signed a new lease.
Right.
You know, and then we worked out a lot of different things to make it happen. It was a very, it's a very tiring 3 years of work. And, you know, that's volunteer work on top of all the other stuff. And so I'm glad that there is a Gallery5, and I'm grateful for all the time that has been put in there. And I am honored that they put up with me for as long as they did, you know. And I'm sure they'll have the best time in the future. I mean, the place is doing really well. It's got a lot of wonderful, you know, offerings to give the community. And April 2023 of this year will be I'll be out officially. I'm gonna play the first Friday for our 18th birthday party, like first Friday. And you know what they say, once you turn 18, you're out the door. So the gallery turns 18. I'll be playing with Prabir Trio. It's going to be Sweet Potatoes, us, and No BS.
Nice.
And that's going to be the 18th birthday party, first Friday, April 6th, I think, something like that.
Sounds about right.
And then I turn in my keys after that, and they will continue on without me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, is there something in particular that like you're really proud of?
I think getting through the pandemic, I think, was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do, because literally our entire business model is, I mean, we're a place where people go. Mm-hmm. And for effectively a year and a half, no one could go anywhere, you know, but like, we still had to pay the water bill, you know,
Yeah.
and we let go of most staff, but we couldn't stay closed indefinitely. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know. And there was also so much uncertainty. At the onset, everyone was like, this will be done in a few months, you know.
Yeah, we were all very optimistic.
Yeah, everyone was just like, a couple of weeks of fucking washing hands and this shit's done, you know. And turns out that's not what it was. It turns out you got to wash a lot of hands for 2 years. So it was really challenging to rethink of the entire purpose and layout and programming and everything. And, you know, I just knew that, like, the old days will never be back again. Mm-hmm. And it's because we lost the upstairs in the lease. So, you know, I was like, man, we can't stay closed indefinitely.
Yeah.
So we had to create digital programming, which requires staff. You know, we had to create outdoor programming. We had to move the stage to open up the bay doors to let fresh air in. I had to make programming that was more relevant and necessary, and not just like cool art entertainment, but it's like cool, purposeful art entertainment. You know, just adding that word purposeful changes the entire landscape, you know, because like one word can make a big difference, like lightning versus lightning bug, you know, like it's a pretty big difference between the two, you know. So purposeful was kind of added in to everything. Like, we have a bar.
Sure.
But what should the bar be, you know? So the bar is now primarily all Virginia products only.
Right.
Because it's like, well, we should support our you know, fellow artisanal makers that are literally miles away.
Yeah.
And instead, what we were doing is we were spending not only fiscal money, but we were spending, you know, fossil fuel emissions from California to Richmond to get wine when we can get it from vineyards that are right here, you know. So we started to internalize that process, and, you know, now most every product that we get and sell is Virginia based, you know, and so the bar became purposeful, you know.
Yeah.
And then the programming became purposeful. Like, this was around the time of all the protests as well.
Right.
And I remember there was a lot of conversation about, you know, proper representation of all cultures and everything, you know, and it really resonated with me that, you know, we control that. Like, we, the folks who create programming, you, all of y'all, you know, I at Gallery5, like, we control that, you know? And so I thought it was worth looking into things that we'd never done before for the sake of making sure we're not leaving anything out, you know, and making cool things happen. So we kind of like pivoted a little to, you know, we did a, instead of doing just kind of like the usual run of the business, we started reaching out to people that we'd never talked to before. So like the Nottoway tribe, you know, this was their land long before anything happened here involving colonialism or slavery or anything like the root of it goes back to those people, you know. And we've never had a show of an indigenous, you know, population at Gallery5, so that was like laser focused on getting that to happen. So that happened, and that was like a big, I felt really good about that. Mm-hmm. We started splitting up our art duties as well to kind of see who else we hadn't worked with and topics we hadn't thought about and stuff. So one of my favorite ones that we did, it was a weird theme, but it was called free parking at Gallery5, and it was about like the intersection of art and urban planning and parking, and to see like why certain neighborhoods kind of got screwed. Yeah, you know, that trace the history of that a little bit. And then put it in context to like, what is our obsession with like cars and parking? You know, like people do and don't go places because of parking. You know?
Yeah, like our whole society is based on the fact that you have to have a car.
Yeah, exactly.
To get from place to place.
And one interesting fact that I learned from that show is we reached out to a bunch of people to participate, and one of them was Dr. Jeremy Hoffman at the Science Museum of Virginia.
Nice. You've been doing like science minutes for a long time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, got to do it, you know. But so he gave me this really fun, interesting fact that I hadn't thought about, and I'm getting the number like wrong, but it's like somewhere in this ballpark. You can research the number yourself. You can Google it yourself and find out. But it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Okay, a car I think is like parked for something like 90% of its life.
Yeah, I can believe.
You know what I mean? Like, more often than not, this thing just sits somewhere, you know? And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, why do we have so many of them? Like, can't we, like, find a sharing system or get robots to drive us around or something like that? This doesn't make sense anymore. So
or we just all work from home.
Or we all work from home, yeah. Or live in smaller, walkable communities, you know.
That would also be a
support
solution.
Mass transit, yada, yada, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, but, like, that show was fun because it instigates those conversations, you know, and those were the conversations we wanted to.
I mean, speaking of the neighborhoods got like left behind, you know, Gallery5 is in Jackson
Ward, yeah.
And I think you live in Jackson Ward. Like, what is it about that neighborhood that kind of keeps you, you know, just really in love with it?
I've said it many times, and I'll say it many more times. I think Jackson Ward is the best neighborhood on earth. It's big enough to walk away from someone you don't want to talk to, but it's small enough to where you know every street and you know every, you know, building, and it really, like, I know my neighbors. You know, there's a beautiful, the Black History Museum is right next to my house. It's this gorgeous building, you know, and it's a purposeful building. You know, it's a neighborhood that has still a lot of local, like, I think we have, yeah, I don't think we have like any chain restaurants or anything. I think it's all just like locally owned everything in Jackson Ward at this moment, at least.
Seems right to me.
I think, you know,
We'll get our
we can
fact
check
checkers.
that. Yeah,
Graphics department's
I
gonna
think,
lay it right
yeah,
here.
yeah. I think there's a Rite Aid or something. You know. But
Not sponsored by them though.
yeah, but I love that it's a neighborhood. It's a real neighborhood, you know,
Yeah.
and it's changing, of course, as all things in Richmond are. And I appreciate the efforts of the neighborhood association to want to keep the good stuff and change the stuff that needs to be updated, you know. So yeah, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I've loved living there. I've been lucky to be there for almost 20 years now.
Wow. Same house or like you
No,
bounced
no,
around a
I've
bit?
been in a couple of places. Yeah, I just can't seem to leave that place. You know, like, it's so close to so many good things.
That's true. There's some good food down
And you
there.
can walk everywhere. You know, like I can take the bus everywhere or walk everywhere. It's rare that I drive, so.
The mural scene down there is really good too. Like
It's the arts district.
Yeah, you can walk like an hour and see 15 or 20
Yeah.
different murals.
That was one thing we did during the pandemic that I really enjoyed, was we created this thing called the Gallery 5K. And it starts at Gallery 5, and it's a 5K route, 5-kilometer route. And we would get different folks to curate it, you know. So one time, Hamilton Glass curated it, and it was all the murals that you could see in that route.
Sure.
And then another time, Michael Broth did his, and his route was totally different, but it still started and ended at Gallery 5. And then Amrit Singh did an architectural route of like the cool architecture that you could see, you know. So it was really neat to get like the running community to interact with Gallery 5 because that had never happened before. I love running, you
There's
know.
a bunch of runners in
Yeah,
Richmond.
yeah, there's a lot of runners, you know, but it was really neat. That first Gallery 5K we did really well. Like it did really, really, really well. And it was a casual 5K, so we just provide you the route the day of. You do it whenever you want. We're not trying to get people to come together and bunch up and breathe on each other, you know. This is still pandemic time, at its peak pandemic. The pandemic's still going on, but that was the peak time.
Right.
But yeah, it was nice to get folks to have like a reason to be outside and exercise and look at art. You know.
Purposeful, right?
Purposeful, again.
You gotta get
that's
them
the
coming.
idea. That's the idea.
Yeah, Jackson Ward, it's like every time I go down there, I see like either like a group of runners or a group of bikers. But I think that's because we go down in the mornings, like on the weekends, and like Broad Street bullies are lining up, getting
Yeah,
ready and
man.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool
I
to
love
see.
it. It's a great neighborhood, yeah.
That's dope. I noticed on a few of the videos that you had recorded that on your guitar it said "Green energy makes new jobs," and like you had mentioned Earth Day, and that definitely like piqued my interest because I was born on Earth Day.
Uh-oh.
But like, what kind? Like, how are you using music to help raise awareness for? Just,
So
like,
that-
taking care of stuff.
That sticker I put on because we got hired to play Dominion River Rock.
Nice.
And so I was like, cool, I'll play River Rock. And I'm not going to be annoying about it, but I'm just going to make my guitar have this phrase on it. Because I still feel like we are lagging behind in that department here in the Commonwealth. And, you know, Dominion Energy has a very difficult job ahead of them because it's not as easy as just switching to renewables. You know, it's not like now we're on green energy. There's a lot of planning and forecasting and, you know, analytics that's going to be involved in looking at how much power do we even need? Where can we source it? Does it all have to come from one place? Can we figure out a system by which this, that, and the other is happening, you know? And I think everybody is going to perpetually want to villainize somebody. And I don't want to villainize anybody. I think they have a tough job, and I think they've made some bad decisions. And I think they are aware of that. And I think they're probably, you know, hopefully, if they want to stick around, they're going to have to make good decisions that at least serve the needs. But for them to take a look in the mirror is also vital, you know, for the folks that have the power.
Yeah.
You know, like I was saying earlier, like we have, you and I and everyone here has the power to make that content, to tell the right stories or bring the content, the conversation, whatever. That's the role we play. Their role is to do the research and progress their field, you know. And I think in some respects, you know, like I said, I think the Commonwealth in general, I think the United States in general lags behind in how we're approaching these things that are very necessary for the future. You know, our sustainability is based on in the hands of a few for-profit corporations. You know.
Yeah.
So
and who wants to dump billions and billions of dollars now for something in the future?
Yeah. So you know. So I think that putting that phrase on there was my way of just being like, you know, for anyone who's there's this mentality that says that it doesn't work. Some people like succumb to it quickly. When wind turbines are loud or solar panels don't work or what, you know, like they have this thing, but they usually don't refute the fact that this innovation is going to lead to new jobs. You know, and I think we all agree that like work being available as a population grows is important because, you know, if you have a growing population without a growing job sector, then the future generations are screwed, you know, and we're seeing some effects of that anyway. But like, yeah, the more we diversify how we do things, it'll lead to more industry. So that was my like subtle like conversation starter at Dominion River Rock.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to scream it into the microphone. But you dropped an Easter egg.
Yeah, but I've gotten it, and I've kept it on there since then, and I've gotten into a lot of conversations with people about it, and some people get upset about it, which I'm always like, I don't know why you're upset about this, but I think they think that I'm trying to go for something bigger or meaner or something, and I'm well, I mean, I'm not.
People think every slogan is, anytime you represent anything, they take the caricature of that thing, and we all kind of do it.
Yeah. No, I stand by it. I think that like the more we diversify our energy sector, the more jobs will be created, and the more jobs are created, the more you have people caring about what they're doing. And the more that people care about what they do, they will then inevitably put thought and, you know, again, there's that purpose comes in of like, why am I putting time into this? Well, I really want hydropower to become a thing for this part of Virginia, and therefore I'm going to devote my mental resources to it for a paycheck, you know? So, yeah, we need more of those paychecks to more of those people, though, you know, like we need more people thinking about it and getting paid to do the work that's going to physically take us from the current infrastructure we have to something that is more sustainable. So, you know, you got to have jobs to do that. If you don't have jobs, you're not going to get there, you know. So create those jobs. Like, it's important to create those jobs.
Hell yeah, people need to be able to provide for their families and eat, and hopefully, you know, while doing something to update the infrastructure and everything. And that's sick.
Don't ask me for favors no more.
This is where the questions are like wild cards, so no, be fearful.
They've all been wild cards.
She usually asks crazy things.
Crazy things. No, I just want to hear a little bit about your time performing at a retirement home.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That is a family thing. My wife, Katie, has a grandmother who is at an Alzheimer's care facility, and she's, you know, surrounded by folks who have similar diagnosis. And during the pandemic, they couldn't have folks come visit because overcrowding and getting, you know, potential illness near these individuals who are later in life and already predisposed to some very fragile medical landscape. So they couldn't have people over. And so I felt really bad about that because I was like, man, these folks are going to be, you know, like it's already, you know, you're by yourself there anyway, all the time. I mean, you know, and you have your folks that take care of you, but you're not with your family, and you're not, you know, I mean, it's already not I think the most ideal, you know, from my perspective, right? It could be totally different. They could be having ragers every night. I don't know, but I don't think they are. But you know, so I felt bad about it, and I was just like, hey, Katie, what if like I just did like a Beatles set, because they all grew up in that time period and they like the Beatles, you know, and that way, even though they can't be with everybody, maybe they can at least have like a dinner or whatever, whatever. And so Katie called them, and they were like, sure, that sounds great. So I learned like a half hour of Beatles tunes, and it was really neat because music has profound impacts on the brain, and Alzheimer's is a neurological disease. So the brain is what's truly impacted by this. But I found it fascinating that, there's all these folks who, before the music started, were one way, kind of at rest, at just kind of looking down, or like they were like kind of doing whatever their thing is that they do. But when the music started, a bunch of them like actually like looked and like were like smiling, and some were singing along, and some were clapping and stuff, and it was really cool because there's something in there that has like Hey Jude attached to it, and when Hey Jude happens, that thing lights up and then so whatever that thing is for them, or Don't Let Me Down, or whatever the song is, Eleanor Rigby, whatever the tune is.
I want to hold your hand.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, all that. Like whatever it is, like if you, like I have like a profound and irreplaceable memory of a Beatles song called In My Life. And I remember hearing that for the first time and being like, this is the greatest song that has ever been written, ever. And I think I was like 10 years old or something. But even to this day, when I hear In My Life, I still think back to watching the Beatles documentary on ABC on my uncle's floor, and that song starts the documentary. And to this day, when I hear In My Life, I still get like a little, it starts there. Like everything for In My Life, memory-wise, starts with like being a young kid on my uncle's floor, looking at the TV, hearing this thing for the first time. I'd never heard that song before. Now I've heard it a million times. So there's something at that gig that was really what I really, there's no pay for that gig, but what I got out of that gig personally for me was it was just this like how do I phrase it? That gig to me was like the cathedral of music. To me, I was like, this is a very negligible, small, tiny thing that's happened on Earth today, but it's further proof that music is powerful, And so I loved it. And, the Beatles tunes are super fun anyway, so I love doing that. And Katie's grandmother enjoyed it, which was the best part, So, yeah, that was that gig.
Thank you so much. Yeah, question.
Anybody else?
Right here. Mel does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, Mel's got one? Okay, cool. We got to swap camera and microphones.
Yeah, I thought it was just, when I heard about it, I don't even know where I found it, but I saw that and I thought it was really special during that time.
That was fun, definitely. Plus, very few gig opportunities in the pandemic.
Sure.
So I'll take
Staying sharp here.
I'll take what I can get. Yeah.
That's a captive audience.
You mentioned that you wrote a song with your grandmother. How did that come about, and have you written with anybody else in your family?
I have not intentionally written with anyone in my family yet. My brother and I as kids would make up songs all the time. So that counts, I guess. That would be number one. That's where it starts. But no, I visited my grandmother many, many years ago, maybe like 6, 7, 8 years ago at this point, knowing that it was her last year to be with us, I think. We all kind of had a understanding of that. And I went to India to kind of do my last visit and not make it a sad occasion, but just be like, great, she's still at home, she's still with us, And one of my cousins was also getting married, and I figured that would be a good time to go because, obviously the wedding is good, but she'll be in good spirits, and it will be like a good reason to see everybody, and I think everybody's kind of coming to visit her. In Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, she's the top matriarch. I mean, you know, everything starts with her, with Hansaben. You know, she's the oldest, most respected elder in the family, all that stuff, you know. And it was a short trip, relatively speaking, because I couldn't spend like a month there or whatever. I think I was there for like 10 days or something. And she kept asking me, like, why are you not staying longer? You know, why don't you just tell your job that you're moving? We'll get you a job here. Like, move back to India, you know. And I remember at the time, like, my reasoning that I told her was because I had a lot going on here. Like, I was like trying to explain to her what South by Southwest was, you know, because I was about to go play South by. And so I was like, you don't get it. Like, I've got this like busy schedule of things, you know, and that's why I said, like, I have to do this trip quickly because I have to get back to da-da-da-da. And in broken English, she didn't mean to say this. Like, she was like, okay, well, she was saying, like, I don't want to see you quickly, but I want to love you slowly, you know. And I remember that phrase, and I was like, man, I know what she meant is, like, she wants to take her time loving me and not rush through it, you know. But I was like, man, that's such a neat little way of phrasing it, you know.
So which did she say? I want to see you quickly?
No, she said, it was something. The earlier part, she was kind of like making fun of me for being busy, and she was like, I want to love you slowly, you know. And so I remember taking that and being like, I'm going to do something with that at some point, and I don't know what yet, you know. And I visited her and I hung out with her and everything, and then flew back to the States. A couple of months later, it was her birthday, so I called her just to say hi, all that stuff. And she said she was lonely because, you know, like everybody else is running around doing life, and she's slowed down, and she's, you know, da-da-da-da. And I told her that I was going to write a song for her using that I want to love you slowly part and everything. And I did. I put it all together as an acoustic song, and then I sent it to them, and you know, she doesn't really listen to English lyrics or anything, so she was like, oh, it's nice, your voice sounds great, you know. So it wasn't like an intentional collab, like we weren't sitting in the studio and she was like, drop the beat on this one, like, you know. She just said this phrase that got me to think about all of it, you know, and that phrase was the key that was needed to unlock, you know, the door or the gate or whatever you want to call it, to the kingdom that became this one song. And then because of the fact that it came from her, I wanted to write it in a more Indian style. So it's one chord, like a raga. Indian raga would be like a traditional raga would be. And the lead melodies are all being played descending on one string. And so it kind of has a sitar-y kind of feel to it a little bit. But yeah, I want to love you slowly. You know, that was her thing, and that became the chorus of the song. And yeah, that's how that song was written.
I'm glad you have that for yourself.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, you know, we just played the other night in Charlottesville, and still to this day, after all these years, again, it's this thing where like we were about to play the song, and I was like, Hansaben, that's my grandmother's name, you know. I was like, oh yeah, Hansaben, you know, like, so she's still alive, you know, somewhere, somehow in my brain, because every time that song comes up, and my hands know it, and my brain and mouth know the words and everything. And it's neat because Jeremy and Kanika and Kelly know it, and Russell knows it, and other people have played it over the years with me too, and they know it. And it's like, it's interesting how she's with all of us at this really like background capacity, you know. But it makes me feel good.
Season 2 is shaping up to be like top notch.
Cool.
For sure. If we could get you to do one thing
Sure.
first. So this is the clapboard with your name on it. So if you could just introduce yourself.
Sure.
Just say like, I'm Prabir, I'm going to be on liner
Who
notes.
do I-
It'll be this camera right here.
Here,
I'm
I'm
slide
gonna,
this
sure.
in.
So
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to say I'm Prabir, and I'm going to be on liner notes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on liner
Or
notes.
I'm on liner notes.
I'm
or
on liner
I'm
notes.
taking over liner, like whatever you feel like doing.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready. Okay. Oh, it's magnetic. So I get one stab at this. Okay, cool. Are you ready? Okay. I am Prabir. I am liner notes.